Welcome, everyone. Hey, it's Craig Fisher. I'm glad you're here. I have Doug Berg with me. He has been involved in a really cool platform called Match2 that gives candidates ownership of their profile and gives you verification of who they are and what they can do for you as an employer. It's pretty fantastic. Doug and I go way back. He's done a lot of great things that I've been a big fan of over many years and have used as products and implemented as a talent leader. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Doug and his history and his vision for this product. And then he's going to show and tell us a little bit about what Match2 is. And I encourage you, the audience, to ask all the questions you want. We'll answer them in real time. And then we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A after. We're probably going to go about 30 minutes today. If we get long-winded and go longer than that, or if you all want to talk more, we've got the time. So it's great to see you, Doug. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me today, man.
Yeah. I think that, this is probably not the first time you and I have done something almost identical to this. I think we did it back in Zap Info days. Might not have been exactly this, but podcast something. And I know that you did a little bit of this with Chris Hoyt a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's been a couple of months ago now.
It has been, yeah. Summer zinging.
Right. But you first showed me Match2 on your tablet at Unleash. I think it was back in spring. And you were pretty fired up about it, and with good reason. I've got to get in close with it and see what it's capable of and what it does. So why don't you tell us about you, what's going on with you, and let's go from there.
That sounds good. Yeah. So as you mentioned in kind of your tee up to me, I mean, I've lived on both sides of the talent equation, right? I've at Jobs2Web helped architect and deliver end-to-end strategies for hundreds of global companies. So I'm acutely aware of the talent stack and what you need to do to try to deploy a strategy to help solve our recruiting needs. And then I've also been on the other side, right? Indeed bought my last business, and so I've sat on top of the Indeed, arguably one of the largest talent supply side types of assets, and seeing what they're doing to try to help optimize and deliver talent from their platform as well. And I helped build out their entire integration ecosystem, right? So everyone from Avature to Workday was able to get Indeed applies and stuff like that. I apologize if anybody's not happy about that, but getting them to help deliver value was great. But when we step back from the entire industry, Craig, and I look at like what is still the biggest problem that's happening between companies trying to recruit talent and talent trying to figure out, how to best relate to all of these companies, all these hiring platforms. I mean, AI can't fix that problem. As much as platforms try to get easier to use and smarter, and talent CRMs and even job boards get better at trying to like match us to opportunities, there's a massive like disconnect still that happens between candidates and companies. And so candidates just, fire up AI machine gun applies and stuff like that to try to play the numbers game and mass fire their resumes. And that's not the answer. So when I stepped back and looked at like, what is the answer? And when we saw the recruiting black hole problem, I'm like, somebody needs to give the candidate a seat at the table. They need to, for the first time, kind of build a consumer application that I call it a personal ATS, right? Let's give the candidates their own reverse ATS that allows them to be a social network of one and to be able to basically go to any company and have a universal experience. I mean, imagine visiting a company and having it greet you by name, instantly match you to the best jobs, allow you to favorite a company, which is in essence using the join the talent community concept. But now I'm linking myself. I always like to say it's better to connect with candidates than to just capture them. Because if I'm a company that captures 1 million records in my talent community, every one of them is a to-do, right? And so then we just start spamming and asking candidates, are you in the market? Are you not in the market? Are you available? Do you have an updated job type? So what happens is it's a one-sided model, whereas if you invite candidates like our LinkedIn experience or Facebook experience, that's a connected environment and a social platform. So, allowing candidates to basically, like you said, have control of their thing, but then to start building their list of favorite employers, to be able to update their records across all of the hiring platforms. So they can declare if they're on the market or not. They can share if they've got a job title update or not. They can let you know if they've taken another position to take them off the application. That creates a very powerful infinite loop model that we think will solve a majority of the big problems in the market, like ghosting and being able to capture passive interest on your site. So what we did, Craig, is we built a talent connector that can drop into any career site or platform. That helps to see the new Match2 user that comes out. And we're launching a Match2 application or portal, if you will, called My Match2, where candidates for free can upload their profile. It's private. They can't search for jobs. They can't find companies. There's always plenty of ways to do that. But basically, then companies can put this in their site to activate all of the instant personalization, greeting, capture, conversion, and connectivity between those candidates and their hiring applications. So now every single record that comes in is a relationship where I'm seeing the candidate kind of self-updating some of their information and data, so that I'm not chasing people, spamming people, and bothering people. I'm literally allowing them to interact directly into my Workday or my Avature or my whatever. And so we think that this delivers a very powerful, connected, direct, private talent network experience, kind of like a private LinkedIn between candidates and companies, that brings social network effect to your career site. So instead of it being a Craigslist, it's now a Facebook Marketplace. And that is a very powerful value proposition that we're going to be bringing to market with the solution.
Okay, so I love a lot of the things you said there. So this drops a little bit of code right on a career site and creates basically a private LinkedIn or Facebook network for the candidate on your career site versus the candidate having to come through a portal on another site. So
Correct.
as the employer, you're now owning the experience and creating that constant connection with the candidate. And the candidate on the other side gets to own their data, their information, gets to prove that they are who they say they are. So we avoid a lot of this job spamming situation that we're seeing that goes both ways.
That's exactly correct. And we have the ability to add some really cool functionality to the career site as well. So like when a known candidate comes to my site, our ability to not just personalize and to match them, full profile match them to jobs, because job search can be confusing a lot of the times. But when you take the full resume against a full requirement, your ability to say, here's the 3 very best jobs that you match right now. Or maybe there's not jobs today, and that's okay too. But now you're connected. We'll let you know when a great job comes up. And so it lets me harvest candidate relationships, even if I don't have an open job that day, which is the essence of building future ready talent pipelines. But it also tees up that connected relationship. And then the candidates can also go into what we call an interactive apply. So instead of having them just submit and quit, if you will, we always like to say the apply button shouldn't be a goodbye button. But to be able to say, here's the things that from the rec that we know you match from your resume, but here's some stuff that's missing, right? Do you team collaboration? Well, I don't put that on my resume, but if it's a required skill, let's let the candidate advocate and say, yes, I have that, and then connect to the experiences. And that whole interactive process is a compliant way to allow candidates to advocate for themselves, to know how and why they match a particular position, to redirect them potentially to a better position if they fit that better. But it also gives an intelligent application then to every recruiter for every job. So it's great reading cutesy cover letters. I would prefer to see a grid, almost like a product comparison that says, here's Doug, here's why he matches the jobs, here's the 3 things that are missing. I instantly know how to relate to that candidate and know whether I should go forward with them. So when we create that application, right, then it instantly updates the candidates portal on their end to say, hey, here's the 5 jobs you just applied to and your current recruiting status with those jobs. And then the candidate can use that to manage, hey, I'm progressing from new to interviewed or from interviewed to second interview. And as we give the candidate that utility, Craig, that's getting echoed out to all of the companies they've applied to. So instead of me only having a siloed view of where my candidate is progressing in my process. Imagine if companies all of a sudden could see how candidates are progressing across all of the companies that they're applying to. That adds a new informational asset that I don't think is available in the market today. We typically find out after we're ready to interview a candidate that they already took another job.
Right.
Well, this allows the candidate to broadcast through the APIs in the interactive network that we built, the ability to kind of show their progressive status as they're progressing, which allows companies to use all this new agentic stuff on the back end that says, hey, if we've got a candidate that's a 90% match for a job and they're at second interview or offer with someone, we should maybe think about changing our priority of that candidate, right? And so all of that starts to add informational value exchange between candidates and companies that's just not available in the current market.
Well, I like that very much. So the candidate decides what they want to share and show, right?
It's every click and every update, we ask the candidate, are you okay sharing this with your favorite companies or favorite employers? And so we knew when we created this that one, we had to keep it private between candidates and companies, and two, we had to have it compliantly consensual, so that every step the candidate knows that they're sharing bits and pieces of data with the companies that they're connected with.
All right. And then on the employer side, Match2 connects, and you say by API, to the ATS and the CRM?
Correct. Yeah. So we have over 100 active talent ATS and CRM API integrations, and that makes it, we're pre-integrated, if you will, to almost every one of the platforms out there. So if a candidate follows your company or favorites your company, they consent to say, hey, you can save my data, right? And then that puts them into your CRM as a prospective candidate. And if they go in and get job recommendations and decide, hey, I'm actually going to apply for this job, and they become an applicant, then we write that application event into your ATS, right? And so then we've got the data relationship between both the candidate and their profile record as a prospective candidate, but we also have that application event where we can give you application status updates as the candidate's moving around the market.
All right, so that's fascinating. And we did a focus group last week with a few of my TalentNet Live speakers and attendees to talk about this. And the question came up, well, okay, like LinkedIn, it suggests skills that you might want to add in order to be a better fit for the job. And so the candidate, in theory, and this was the question, could just add anything they want. But in the alternate version of that conversation, we also said, well, you're verifying things over time. So with consistent information in the candidate's profile versus their resume over time, and then checking any other data sources, we're able to say, all right, now this candidate's actually who they say they are, and this is where they've done those things, the exact things. And when you get spam applies, that's normally from some sort of evil consortium, right? And so there's not going to be any bots that are going to jump through all these hoops to prove who they are over time. And so you'll know pretty quickly who the real candidates are. And then very quickly after that, you're going to have fresh data for your CRM or your ATS for all the candidates that apply, who also get an API lookup to see if they match someone that exists in your previous applicants.
Yep.
All right. So your candidate pool gets updated. So if I have a CRM, let's call it Eightfold, and if I have an ATS, let's call it Workday, I can actually get the information between the two working better quickly just by dropping a tiny little bit of code on my career site.
Absolutely. And the astonishing thing in the early customers that we've launched, we're seeing, join our talent community was something I created at Jobs to Web, and it was a great concept back then.
Yeah.
But it largely is, kind of this, we'll send you spam alerts or job alerts in the future thing.
It's a newsletter, right?
It captures maybe the business card of the candidate, but not their full resume. But when you start adding like, let us match you to jobs and favorite and follow our company, those are social behaviors that I think everybody knows and is very used to. And believe it or not, candidates would love the ability to share their resume with your recruiting team on your career site ahead of applying.
Yeah.
And yet, unfortunately, most companies, wait to get the resume after somebody's deep into the application process. And so we're like, let's flip that around. Let's start getting candidates to share their resume right up front. It helps us with personalization. We like to say turn resumes into personalization, turn resumes into optimized applications,
Mm-hmm.
and to build that kind of future talent pipeline. And so we're seeing 4 to 5 times higher capture rates of candidates that share their resume and just don't apply yet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of reasons for that. But our ability now to get visibility and engageability with that passive candidate on my career site turns the front doorstep of my career site into one of my best sourcing gathering types of strategies in my career site, which I just don't have today if I've got an apply or goodbye strategy in place.
And so now, as employers, we can start to focus our advertising efforts on social, on Google, versus just spending gobs of sort of senseless dollars on specific job boards. I mean, the mix can be better because we're driving traffic to the place that we own.
That's correct. Yeah. And it's a new call to action, right? It's like, let's capture people at high instead of waiting for them to apply. And that drives engagement. It helps me fill my hard to fill jobs where maybe candidates are what I call apply allergic.
Mm-hmm.
A doctor doesn't want to go through an exhaustive kind of workday apply process. And so how can we allow them to say, I'm interested?
Mm-hmm.
How can we make sure that they're a good fit for an opportunity? How can we, in the career site, even start to place automation events? So if somebody's a 90% fit for my job as a recruiter, I might want them to instantly schedule an interview, or I might want them to instantly meet me and link to me on LinkedIn, right? So there's all kinds of ways you can start adding kind of new candidate journeys, new capture, kind of being able to experiment. Maybe even if your iCIMS or your whatever, Taleo doesn't allow you to do those things, by putting Match2's talent connector in your site, which is an easy drop-in, we
Mm-hmm.
can now enable it's kind of like upgrading your car by just putting, a new Bluetooth adapter into the vehicle. And so we really can activate some very powerful capabilities without you having to change platforms or, go through an RFP process or a massive integration play.
Right.
You can really, upgrade things very easily. Like we've had customers go live in less than an hour by activating this. So,
Yeah, you told me that before. You had a customer recently get the integration to their ATS done in 30 minutes.
mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the API key. They had their job feed that they were already giving to Indeed or somebody, and we just gave them the script, and they were able to drop it into their Google Tag Manager, and they were live. So I mean, it's just can be that easy to be able to do what I call a sales ready or instant activation of a really cool new technology that kind of upgrades everything without having to change anything.
Well, as someone who builds career sites, I can say that's very refreshing.
We knew that TA leaders said no more platforms. I already have too many platforms, right?
Right.
Let's just make the ones we have better and connected and synchronized. And that's in essence what we're able to do by deploying kind of this new integration strategy between, we're like connecting people to platforms, which is what we're trying to say. And platforms have been great at integrating with each other, but no one's ever extended it all the way to the candidate so that they're connected to the platforms that they're interacting with every day. And so that brings simplification, lack of confusion and frustration, and real-time communication between all of the players that they're digitally interacting with every day.
So better data, 360 connectivity, and owning your own process sounds good to me. Do you want to show us something?
Sure, I can show kind of what it would look like inside of a site even.
Sure.
I'm dangerously going to show, well, actually, I'll just show one or the other. So a big part of what we do when we go live in a site, let me see if I can.
And while we're waiting for Doug to come back, here he is.
I hit leave studio, not share.
There you go.
There we go. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And here we go. You got me?
Yeah.
So a standard career site looks like this typically, where you've got like your job search capability in the lower left-hand side.
Hold on. I got to remove something else first. Okay, here we go. There you are.
Yeah, so a part of what we do when we drop in is we allow the companies to start adding these kind of social capture capabilities. So this is on LinkedIn, right? If I'm visiting your career site on LinkedIn, I can instantly follow your career site, right? And so by adding that capability, this kind of becomes the new or lead feeder for Join Our Talent community. But this is actually going to allow us to also say, hey, let us upload your resume, share it with our team. You know you're not an applicant yet. You agree that ABC can store your data. It's okay if they contact you. And by the way, I'd like to connect it to my Match2 account. And so we become kind of the new apply with, but it's an apply and connect with capability, right? So it's just adding that dimension to it. And as soon as I upload my profile or resume, it then instantly matches me to the great jobs. So candidates don't have to search and read and research or just apply to kind of the first job they find. This literally is making sure every candidate is applying to the very best job. And we want to show them why they match, right? And so if they click on this, we can show them, hey, we knew and saw all of these from your resume, but the stuff we didn't see was here. And so can you maybe update us and let us know which of your different positions you upload your resume, and then even pop a note in for the recruiter, right? So we're trying to eliminate all of that post-apply. Recruiter thinks they might have the skill, but they don't know if they have it. And so I got to reach out to the candidate and answer the question, do you have this or do you not? And so this just does all of that work up front of making sure we've got the candidate applying to the best job and then also optimizing. And what's cool about this, Craig, is then this is where we hand the recruiter with every applicant this intelligent application, which basically is candidate reviewed, confirmed, and submitted. So it's compliant. It doesn't violate any of the AI kind of AEDP rules because, again, the candidate has personally reviewed this, confirmed it, and submitted it. And by the way, we keep track of every one of these moves. So in the applies, you get the matching rationale, you get the original resume, and you get the ability for, we show you all of the change events. So every time a candidate moves something from the I don't have to I do have, we keep track of that so you can see what they're doing. So instead of the candidate just kind of doing an AI update of their resume so that when they upload it, it's better, like all of that ping ponging that happens, we want to facilitate this so that we can basically observe it. And so then when they apply, this sends the application into your system. And now we can say, do you want to go back and apply to more jobs? Or this is where we basically added that application to the candidate's job application. So now they can, as they travel around and apply to other companies and stuff like that, manage this and then see their progressive state. So now as the candidate's updating their status and they go, hey, I'm at second interview, now all of a sudden, this is where, like I showed you, this is that touch point where we say, are you okay sharing your application status with all the companies you've applied to? So this is what adds that kind of neat social updating, where then we push those updates to all of the different ATS systems on behalf of the candidate, because they're not going to go back and log in and update their application status. We make it one click easy, right? So this kind of shows you how we're adding that kind of candidate management piece. It's like their own portal, but now they're linked to me as a company. They say, I would like to get job alerts from the company. I'd like to automatically update my resume. I'm either on the market or not on the market. And so all of this kind of back and forth is what allows us to put that kind of informational asymmetry relationship between candidate and company into play so that both are benefiting from these basic updates that are happening.
All right, Audra has a question. What if the candidate says they do have everything just to book the interview, but they do not actually have everything?
Yeah, again, we can't solve if candidates are spoofing or not spoofing, but we certainly keep track of and show, like, let's say they started with 0 and there was 10 requirements, we would show you that they just changed all 10 things.
Yeah. And so that sort of verification over time, if they do that a lot, your system's going to say, that's not going to be probably the best candidate to show these jobs.
We can now flag the candidate in our system to say, hey, we're suspect of this candidate. And because we have the data connection now, when they apply to job 2, job 3, job 4, that kind of neat data relationship allows us to basically start better managing and better monitoring those candidates. And over time, we might be able to develop, some capabilities where if a candidate comes back and tries to rematch, because when they come back, the next time, we know who they are. So
Mhm.
the known user basically comes in and says, hey, welcome back. We hire people like you. Are you okay just connecting with us? So we kind of go to this like one button capture piece. But if the candidate is flagged on the recruiting side that they really don't have certain types of skills, we're not going to match them to those opportunities in the future. So we've kind of got this neat interactive ability to now start to be able to do some tuning back and forth between what's happening on the recruiting side and what's happening on the candidate side.
Oh, I like it. I like it very much. Yeah. So, Aaron, Stevens, and Audra, hi. To confirm, this is an overlay, but what it's really doing is just dropping a tiny bit of code on your career site that API connects to your ATS and to your CRM, and then in the background, Match2 will match the fields that need to be matched in order to give the information from here that shows if a candidate's really basically who they say they are and what their updates are from other opportunities and when their resume gets updated. All of those are really good light, what I like to say, light touch things.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan.
Very basic stuff, but very important, right? I think a lot of people don't know that probably 50% of your traffic comes in at the job level. So people are on the boards, they click from Indeed, they come over to my job. If it's not the right one, they go back to Indeed, they click on the next one, right?
Right.
And so they do this back and forth stuff. What we're trying to do is to say, well, hey, let's take the confusion out of that as well. And so if we see a candidate's looked at one or two jobs, we might say, hey, let us just help you. Like, let's end the confusion. Let's go ahead and have you upload your profile. So now we've captured the candidate, whether they go on to apply or not. And then we've allowed to basically instantly match them and redirect them to the best job so that we can instantly get them connected to the right opportunity. Now, if there is no jobs, which is a possibility, right? We're still kind of in a recession. Just let the candidate know, hey, we don't have anything for you, but we do hire people from you. Are you cool getting alerts? And so now all of a sudden this sets them up to get job alerts from your Beamery, your Phenom, your Avature, whatever, so that we can basically help to continually capture that talent so we can hire like we say, capture everyone, but only hire who you need when you need them, right?
Right.
And the same thing is like if I've got a somewhat interested candidate, we can also show them like, hey, you're a great match for this, right? So it adds another capture intent moment from the marketing world, right? Where the candidate can say also, hey, I do have a lot of these capabilities. I'll share my interest with the recruiter. And so we would only show this when they're a threshold match for a particular type of a job.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if your recruiters say, look, I'd love to have people connect with me or talk to me or see a video of me, we can start to integrate assets you probably have sitting around, but put them right into the path of the candidate so that we can start accelerating kind of our time to fill and ability to schedule interviews and all of that stuff right inside of the platform. And
So if you've ever been a job seeker, and I apply to jobs for a living, right? I'm leak testing employers' systems on a regular basis. You get to sort of signal intent on places like LinkedIn by favoriting a job or saving a job. But 90% of recruiters tell me that they never even see any of that information or look at it, and they don't do anything with it. And so if you want your recruiters in their CRM or in their ATS, this gives them the information right there.
That's right. We don't want people to have to go away from the systems they already have.
Yep.
We do have a great dashboard, but we're going to be trying to help facilitate and utilize those candidate-driven updates, right? So if a candidate says they're back on the market or if they've got a new skill, we push that update into the CRM, and hopefully your CRM's got great agentic capabilities so that it would know what to do with that actual intelligence, right? I call it. It's
Right.
not artificial. We now are the first
Actual
to know
intelligence.
that the candidate said they're back in the market. They're a high potential candidate. We tell the recruiter to follow up or let's instantly schedule an interview, whatever. So we basically are trying to enhance the engagement that's happening between parties in your existing applications. But you can also come in and see this beautiful dashboard where we, because we're in your site, we can see exactly who's visiting, where they're visiting from. Because we're using full resumes to help do recommendations, we can actually see what employers they work from, what types of candidates from that employer are in there. And then we can also start seeing like which candidates came that were a high threshold match, but they just didn't apply yet. And so getting visibility and engageability with candidates that I would have previously just seen as a visitor with an IP address now become actually engageable candidates in the system. But what's neat, Craig, in a dimension of this that we haven't talked about is because this is a multi-employer utility, it kind of puts a Fitbit or an Apple tag on the candidates. So as they visit me and interact with me, that's fantastic. But the reality is the candidate journey is across a whole bunch of employers. And so, but if I'm connected to them and they compliantly share with me what they're doing, my ability to understand like how I'm progressing candidates in terms of versus other people, like maybe I want to see how I'm doing against a particular company. How long is it taking me to get people to interview or to offer or to hire? So because we have all of the interactive data that's happening as candidates are interacting across a network of employers, we have the ability to start sharing with you, not at the candidate level, but in an aggregate level, what other companies are people favoriting? What other companies are people applying to? When they say they took another job with a company, we do a quick little survey. It's this very cool thing that we basically do with candidates when they say, hey, I took another job. We say, hey, great. Why'd you go with that company instead of our company? And so the candidates give us this data. They tell us exactly kind of what their offer was and what their start date was. And so we have this ability to then say, oh, cool, thanks, congratulations. Are you okay updating your profile? And are you okay sharing that update with the companies? So now all of a sudden, that update instantly gets propagated to all my favorite employers. And that's what powers kind of my ability also as the employer to see, why am I losing hires, right? And so my ability to kind of come in and look at my post-visit data where, you know, I'm losing people mostly to pay or closer to home or whatever. And now I can actually drill in and see exactly where my gaps are relative to benefits, pay, or purpose for why candidates aren't taking jobs. And this is the kind of data we've just never seen companies really have real-time access to, because there's never been a kind of company to candidate, candidate to company private network that allows for this kind of tracking and sharing.
Right. So Audra has a good question. The other companies also have to be a client of Match2. And so I've got my own answer to this. Then Doug, I'd like to hear yours. The way I see this is, Audra, right now, the only way you have sort of a quick apply process is through Indeed or through LinkedIn. And that requires you to have an integration with an outside system that you don't have any control of. Versus this is the independent quick apply, right? That you own. And I think we can get most of the Fortune 200 to adopt this as a standard. And if we do, and we're sharing blind data across all the organizations, think of what that does for the candidate, right? So Doug said Fitbit. I use Apple Health. I track every time I go to a doctor or a dentist, my blood pressure and all kinds of other vitals. And if I have this information about why I chose a specific job and what my experience was as a candidate over time, that's going to be wildly valuable to me. And then if employers have this aggregate blind data about how they're doing and why, that's wildly valuable to them. I think this is I think that we're at a turning point where we need something like this. Doug, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, we love the system and platform level tracking, if you will, but we did make the application so that candidates can also track things that are on sites that aren't Match2 enabled yet. So I have the ability to, using a Chrome extension and stuff like that, I have a little experience with that, be able to proactively favorite companies that I'm visiting and help, you know, kind of preemptively link and provide access to my profile. And then as soon as that company becomes an active Match2 user, we can basically back all of that captured candidates, those private candidates, into your system. But I can also keep track of all of the different applications I'm applying to, even if that company doesn't have the full integration. We still can kind of let the candidate keep track of where they're at, what their updates are and stuff like that. And then that helps us to use candidate gathered and progressive data to be able to still provide that data set. But the good news is we're talking to almost every ATS, and we've gotten very positive interest in them to implement this across their entire network. So there's several ATSs. We're already in their partner program. We're building out the ability to just turn this on in your application. I can't drop names yet, but one of them actually does over 1 billion applicants a year. And so like our ability to get to cruising altitude with the direct network is going to happen like almost by HR Tech or slightly after.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited for the explosion of this to happen on both the career sites as well as in the candidate universe as well. So
I love all that. So we're coming at it from multiple directions, Audra, if that makes sense. And candidates can keep track, even if they are not talking to a Match2 customer, which is great. Amy Schwenk had a question. This is awesome. Doug, how does the system accommodate for candidates potentially suitable for more than one job category or who may have more than one resume? And that's a really good question. I like that.
Yeah, so we allow the candidates to have an initial resume right now, and they can obviously change it or optimize it. And what's kind of neat about what we've done here, Craig, is even as they're interacting with different companies, like say they're interacting with Best Buy's career site, and they've got store management experience, but they forgot to put that into, or a certain POS system they've worked with, and they just didn't have it in their resume. When they're interacting with one company, that interactive dance is updating their profile so that when they go to the next company, it will automatically have that new updated data. So they won't have to like rebuild their resume or re-update it. They're doing it in flight as they're interacting with a lot of folks. We plan to offer the ability to let candidates have multiple profiles depending on like what they want to do. That'll come out early next year. Mm-hmm. But we still want to be able to capture the specific profile they used to apply for a specific job at a specific company so that we can really keep track of the quality of that profile. And as that candidate progresses through the incredible application systems, we think that that's going to help us to be able to provide some type of signal back, like a credibility signal, to say that this candidate with this resume has progressed to second interview offer and whatever. And so we can have some believability of the credibility of the resume given kind of the crowdsourced progressive status that's happening with candidates.
I'm going to add on that, Amy Schwenk, in the book that I wrote for job seekers called Paint Your Store, I advocate for being very focused and narrow. And I don't really think that candidates should have 30 resumes that are different and be applying to 50 different categories. I mean, maybe you have more than one category, but you can showcase both things in a resume. I think that the days of having a million different profiles and resumes is going to go away because we're going to have to get really focused in order to get noticed. Aaron Steven wants to know, where is this data being stored?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of people are like, well, why would I give Match2 all this data? Well, we look at it like we're letting the candidate finally own their data, right? It's like taking a Word doc and making it into a Google Doc. And now the candidate gets the ability to decide who they share it with. And then if they update it, do they get those updates? And so you can kind of think of this more like the Google Auth of the talent industry, as opposed to Match2's just building another Indeed. And so we make promises to the employers, even in our agreements. Well, candidates can't find companies, companies can't find candidates. There's no data sharing, no pooling, no reselling you back your candidates for some reason. This truly is a way for us to power a data service between candidates and companies so that we can make sure that that interactive, frictionless experience can happen within the market.
Right. So we're not building a system to resell you your same candidates over and over again. It's not a sourcing platform. It's a connection platform.
Correct. Yeah,
I like it. All right. So we talked about hopefully by HR Tech, you're going to have some new features to roll out. And at HR Tech, you're going to be doing Pitch Fest, which I'm very excited to see how that goes. I think that you've got a great shot at winning that because you also won a similar thing at Unleash. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We won kind of the hottest new emerging technology award with HR Tech. So, it's funny because I've been a judge of the Pitch Fest. Now
Same, yes.
I'm pitching, right? And so you're supposed to have a good shot at it, but it's you never know. what people are. AI is very exciting. There is parts of what we're doing here that are AI, but we're not making decisions. We're trying to help facilitate relationships, recommendations, personalization. But the human in the loop piece of this is something that we are, especially the candidate in the loop, is something that we're really passionate about. Elaine and I are, and so we really want to level the playing field here a bit for candidate and company. And if we can solve a lot of the big problems in the industry by creating this, we're really excited about that.
Lightweight, drops right on the career site. Fantastic. You'll be showing us this more in detail also at the TalentNet Live Conference in DFW at Caliber Collision headquarters on November 7th.
Correct.
And we're excited to welcome you there as a sponsor and as a partner. Doug, this has been fantastic. If there's any other questions for Doug, throw them out there now because we're about to sign off. Otherwise, yeah. I'm going to say,
people know how to find me on LinkedIn too. I mean, that's still a good purpose for that. But yeah, come to match2.com if you'd like to. We've got a great new website that we just launched. There's some great arcades and instant demos, and certainly Elaine and I and Darren would love to just talk to people, see what we can answer questions. And even if companies don't what we've been running into, Craig, is there are certain healthcare companies, right, that have incredibly stringent data privacy and AI utilization restrictions. And we have figured out how to deploy Match2 even in those environments, because what you're doing is, it's just like apply with LinkedIn or apply with Indeed. You didn't force them to go through your privacy gauntlet in order to be able to utilize those as a part of your strategy.
Right.
The same thing can happen with Match2. You can just promote the ability for candidates to use this, and then the candidate basically takes over at that point. They're using the AI, they're doing the matching, and you just get the output of the application at the end of that process, as well as all of the interactive data updates that are happening through the APIs. And so the data is all your data. It's living in your systems. And so our ability to deploy this in kind of a you don't have to go through the proctology exam of data privacy, and you can still be able to utilize some of these things on your career site. So,
well, okay, I like all that. We will post this video to talentnetlive.com/match2 as well for future use and viewing. And thanks everyone who joined. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Hope you have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you.